I'm Sarah from Turn Back Time, day 48, and I'm this close to getting under 80 kilos. 0.1 of a kilo to lose, and I feel like I need to do what boxers do and go out and run around and around the block endlessly until I get under it. But it should happen tomorrow at the 7-week mark. What a better celebration than that. I'm glad we do have pounds though, because the kilos fall off so much more slowly. As of today, I've lost exactly 16 pounds in just under 7 weeks. I started at 192.6 and I'm now 176.6. Quite an achievement. And I now have just 12 days to go to the end of this challenge to do everything as perfectly as possible to see what can actually be achieved by eating in perfect balance for 60 days. I have to admit, I did used to have 2 guilty vices. My sugar addiction may have been tamed by this diet, but I'm still a bookaholic, a charity shop or thrift shop bookaholic, thankfully, or I'd be broke. But doing this podcast has given me an excuse to keep indulging that one at least, cruising the health and cookbook sections in the charity shops and the thrift stores to learn as much as I can about keeping this body in shape. Today, I picked up a weirdly named textbook, The Ultimate High-Phytochemical Food Healing System. Well, it has to be one of the most depressing books I think I've ever read, but also one of the most informative. In 250 huge pages with pictures, it explains all the ways the food industry has been poisoned and manipulated to damage us. If you're in a temperate climate, it will send you running to an allotment. If you're in a furnace climate like me, where anything you try to grow just gives up the moment it pokes its head above the soil, well, just prepare for starvation, basically. We might have needed that weight. It makes it clear that some of the foods that I've been using and relying on as healthy in this eating plan are absolutely not. First off, peanut butter. Now, I'd never eaten peanut butter before I started this diet, and when I told one of my followers that it was a good thing to use in healthy sweets, she sucked her teeth, and then she said, "But what about the mold?" And I didn't know what she was talking about, but I do now, thanks to this tome. Basically, even unsweetened natural peanut butter is made from the mouldy sweepings of the nuts on the floor after the nuts have been packaged up. A bit like tea bags, I suppose. That's what they do there too, except that these nuts may be covered in a highly toxic mold which is invisible, called aflatoxin. Both the FDA and the WHO have labelled the substance highly carcinogenic, especially likely to cause liver cancer, and it can be sitting, mouldering away on supermarket shelves for months. And the highest concentration of this aflatoxin is in the organic brands. When they tested 11 brands of peanut butter, 10 of them were highly contaminated. Potentially, aflatoxin plays a part in peanut allergies too, but so too does the peanut oil in infant milk, which imbibes so much causes an intolerance. The age of the people who generally imbibe a lot of peanut butter, i.e. children, is seriously scary, and the FDA has declined to do anything about it. So unless you grow the peanuts yourself and use only the healthiest nuts, basically you don't want to touch it. So that's out then. I'll replace it with almond butter, which I haven't tried yet. If you're in the US and you're trying to hang on to at least a few slices of bread a day, and you're reading the carbs per serving label on the back of the bread bag to see how much you can have, also look for a particular ingredient, which is called potassium bromate. This ingredient acts like false iodine. The thyroid gland absorbs iodine into the body for us, but this potassium bromate tricks the iodine receptors into thinking they need to absorb it instead. And while they're doing that, so occupied, real iodine gets ignored. And iodine is like the spark plug for the thyroid. It fires it up and energizes it. If the thyroid doesn't get any real iodine, it's like a normal car without a spark plug. There's an epidemic of thyroid problems right now worldwide, and we imbibe huge amounts of wheat products. Basically, any product with a rising agent in it may have potassium bromate, which may be called bromated flour, because it helps the cakes and the breads rise. The UK, the EU and Canada banned it from being used in their production lines, but not in the US. California said they would ban it, but not until 2027. Indian researchers did a study of KFC, Pizza Hut, Domino's, McDonald's and Subway in Delhi in 2016, and they all had potassium bromate in the bread. Whether it's still in those products or not, we've grown up eating them. Then there's GMO manipulation. We've all had some seedless fruit, which we know is not natural. Maybe we've had grapes or tangerines. How can it be natural? How would it reproduce? This book explained that in the seeds of many fruits, like apples, there's a form of cyanide, but it's a good cyanide, hydrogen cyanide, and it's a compound which does us no harm at all, but it kills off cancer cells, fungi, bacteria and viruses. That apple a day keeps the doctor away was very true. What did our great-grandparents know about food which hasn't come down through the generations? We need to be eating the seeds and the skins for all the phytochemicals in them. But we're in a situation now where our fruits are becoming seedless, and there are so many pesticides sprayed on our fruit, some of which include potassium bromate. It's not just in the flour, that we have to carve the skins off so as not to poison ourselves. And only the rich can really afford true organic. Whereas 100 years ago, there was no such thing as organic, because it all was. So that really was the most depressing 50 cents I think I ever spent. How would we know all this if we didn't read? It's all there in plain sight, but it's like a dietary maze. Well, we'll keep trying to negotiate that maze, and I'll see you tomorrow.